It's fair to say that everyone's talking about Jadon Sancho again after what was a blistering performance in the Champions League against PSG. So the question is, should he be given another chance at Manchester United? Now, I made my opinion pretty clear previously on Sancho, and I want you to give me 8 minutes of your time today for me to explain exactly what I think is the real truth about this whole Sancho situation and how one performance in the Champions League doesn't change anything. Not for me anyway. You can let me know what you think in the comments. It feels like United fans are largely on the same page about this, but not everyone. But looking at that game against PSG, Dortmund should have easily won more than 1-0, first of all. Secondly, Sancho was unstoppable. 12 completed dribbles. You look at him and you're going, there you are. Didn't see you much at United. He was asked after the game, about his future, and he said, look, I really don't know. I'm focused on the present right now. Speaking to a drunk Jamie Carragher. Excellent interview. But a lot of people, this happens, right? You see a player there, you see him go on loan, you see him put in a performance like that, and you go, whoop, he's got to come back to the club. Whoop, we got it completely wrong. Whoop, what a massive mistake. I don't think that's the case with Jadon Sancho. Now, the first thing I want to say here before I get into it is mitigating circumstances. And the mitigating circumstance, I've got a photo of Carrington there, could be anything to do with United, but it's the environment. I think what you're seeing from that game there, that performance there, was a Jadon Sancho thriving in a happy environment. And Manchester United, Gary Neville called it the graveyard of players. It's been a graveyard for a long time for managers and players. Sancho, one of them. It's not been a place which has inspired players to improve. In fact, it's almost worked against them. So that's the mitigating circumstances out of the way, which I definitely think have contributed to how heavy that shirt weighed on Jadon Sancho's shoulders. All right? But when it comes to this whole Erik Ten Hag clash that's happened, I want to quickly remind you of something very important. Because people try to put all of the problems that Sancho had at United, just put them at the feet of Erik Ten Hag. Whereas Sancho rarely, well, not completely rare, but he had his moments and his performances under Solskjaer. But you look at the whole time and you go, well, you didn't see that Sancho much. You really didn't. And that's the first thing I really want to say is that the problems that existed with Sancho at United pre-existed and predated Erik Ten Hag. But of course, it was this statement here which was the straw that broke the camel's back. A statement, by the way, let me remind you, that came after Erik Ten Hag gave Sancho 3 months off in his first season in charge when he really needed attackers, but he saw that the headspace wasn't there and he needed to step away. He had the awareness of that. He had to go at his man management. That's one of the best examples I've seen of man management on an individual basis. Nothing happened as a consequence. Erik Ten Hag he wasn't even harsh. I really stand by this. That's Solskjaer. I don't even think he was harsh in saying that he didn't train properly. Jadon Sancho decided to take to Twitter to call his manager a liar, undermine him in public. And when asked to take it down, he refused. He said no. And all of this has happened as a consequence. And 2 words could have changed that completely. 2 words. Even if Sancho was so determined that he was correct in this situation, he goes, well, okay, I'll swallow my pride, I'll move on. But no, that was more important to him than playing for Manchester United. And for that, it snapped a relationship with a lot of United fans. And when it comes to what Jim Ratcliffe and Dave Brailsford are doing, and this gets to the crux of the point here, it doesn't matter what Jadon Sancho does in the Champions League with Borussia Dortmund. This is a player who publicly undermined the manager at Manchester United and was ostracised from the team as a consequence. What message would that send if we're trying to return elite performance to this football club and elite culture to this football club? What would that show if Jadon Sancho walked back through the doors as a United player, which of course would only probably happen if one of 2 things happened. Number 1, he apologises, but I think the ship may have sailed on that one. Or number 2, Erik Ten Hag is replaced. And for some United fans, they're looking at that game against PSG and going, there he is. How can we possibly not try and bring him back in? And then I look at how Jadon Sancho has actually been getting on there at Dortmund. And I'd say that was easily his best performance. He's been playing pretty well in the Champions League, but what's that? 17 games, 3 goals and 2 assists. Okey-dokey. I've seen enough personally, as a United fan, over multiple seasons, under multiple managers, to know that Jadon Sancho, he's capable of performances like this. But the question has never been around Jadon Sancho's quality. It's been around Jadon Sancho's professionalism. And I've seen enough of that as a United fan to think that it's the right time to move on. This here from 2019, from David Ornstein, you'll recognise certain words here. Jadon Sancho felt humiliated, scapegoated and unprotected by Dortmund after they lost to Bayern Munich. That was when he turned up late for training, I think, after an international break, got fined, and the problems that existed with Sancho at Dortmund, and the problems that have existed at Manchester United. Now, Borussia Dortmund here, you all owe him an apology. We were always familiar with his game. Hey, dudes, just cough up the money. Guarantee you it gets to the summer and Dortmund don't want to pay the fee that United should be demanding for a player who is 24, obviously an elite level footballer, but far from an elite level professional when it comes to the absolute top tier of football. And Borussia Dortmund are not in that top tier. Man United are not on the pitch anymore. But Man United, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Real Madrid and Liverpool, the 5 biggest clubs in world football. Playing for those clubs, it's different to playing for any other club. Now, there's people that are saying, look, well, Jason Wilcox, I think, managed Jadon Sancho for the under-18s. Either that or he was the academy director at the time. I don't know exactly what it is. But people are saying, well, he's going to come to the club. Jason Wilcox will know how to manage Jadon Sancho, which may be true to a certain degree, but he's a technical director. He's not the manager. The manager will still have to manage him. And the fact that Jadon Sancho never came out with those words, it's those 2 words could have changed it all. Oh, but Eric Ten Hag, he threw him under the bus. Dudes, he didn't throw him under the bus. I won't ever accept that. He said he wasn't training he wasn't putting enough in training, to the point where Jadon Sancho called him a liar in public. I don't really think that that Jason Wilcox relationship changes too much, because I personally think that no matter what Jadon Sancho does in this Champions League, he can go and put in a performance like that in the second leg. He can go and put in a performance like that in the final, and we'll probably get a nice little bonus for that. It doesn't change my opinion on Jadon Sancho as a professional Manchester United player. It doesn't matter what he's done now, or he's doing now, sorry, at Dortmund. It matters what has happened at this football club, because things are different. And as I said, the mitigating circumstances of the environment, I think they've contributed to it. Did he have enough support? Probably not. Have the players had enough support? Probably not. But at the same time, a lot of internal reflection has to happen on these players. And I think Jadon Sancho, in the goodness of his career, when he looks back on it, will look back at this United time with regret. But it doesn't mean that I think he should come back to the club next year. And if Jim Ratcliffe and Dave Brailsford, and I'm sure they are, absolutely convinced, not convinced, but they are determined to bring back this elite performance culture, I just don't see how Jadon Sancho returning after what has happened falls in line with that. I don't think it does. And no amount of good performances in the Champions League changes my stance on that. What about yours?